Well, Mark Latham joins me on Mark Latham Day every Monday. Good to talk to you. Jacinta Price, no one's prepared to listen. They can say anything about her and no one cops a punishment of any kind.
Well, Alan, you know, she's one of the bravest people in the country and that bravery leads her to the truth. And that's all she speaks is the plain truth. But, you know, this stuff is everywhere. Over the weekend I read the New South Wales coroner's report. They have a domestic violence death review team. And it's overrepresented with Indigenous killing other Indigenous, time after time, 53 case studies. Then you get into the body of the report and they look at what causes this, and they don't look at alcohol or drug abuse or underclass or welfare dependency or poverty. They come down to racism, to say that the person who's killed another Indigenous is a victim of racism.
Right.
Now, you sort of look at this stuff with a sense of disbelief. It's completely surreal. But you get this in every government report, and all Jacinta Price is doing is standing up against this wall of nonsense with the truth. Yes. And everyone should be supporting her on that basis.
The Royal Commission into Black Deaths in Custody said, and I quote, Indigenous people are not more likely to die in custody than other Australians. Jacinta Price said Aboriginal Australians are far more likely to die at the hands of other Aboriginal Australians than at the hands of white people who are in custody. But, Mark, at the last election, she ran as the Liberal candidate in the Sivlingiari. There was a Greens candidate by the name of George Hanna. He got 8% of the vote. During the course of the campaign, he posted on Facebook a picture of Jacinta Price drinking from a coconut, fictitious picture, with a caption, "It's not every day you see a coconut drinking from a coconut." I remember
that, yeah, it was shameful, completely shameful.
Shameful. And she's got to cop this, and there's no redress.
Well, you know, she's just got to keep repeating the facts and eventually the truth does out itself and has an impact. And the truth is, with regard to the Royal Commission, that when a police officer arrests an Indigenous in Australia, it's normally in the context of trying to protect another Indigenous from harm. That's the truth of it. The greatest harm to Indigenous in Australia is not from Captain Cook or Arthur Phillip, it's from other Indigenous. Right. That's what all the data shows.
Americans too.
But the left have put out under the banner of Black Lives Matter extremism that 437 Indigenous deaths in custody since the Royal Commission. They put out the slur against police and prison officers. Right. These are cases of murder. But you go through the coroner's report, and these coroners are getting softer by the day, but you go through those reports and the actual number is not 437, it's zero. It's zero number of murders by police and prison officers of Indigenous in custody.
She's made these points. Just let's go to this coronavirus thing. I mean, for goodness sake, there's one person in New South Wales in intensive care, 2 in hospital. Gladys Berejiklian says today we're on high alert. What on earth?
Tipping point. High alert was last week and now it's tipping point. There's a new hysterical piece of rhetoric every second day. Tipping point. Tipping towards what? We're certainly not going to be overrun in the hospital system. The hospital's never been so empty because the general public's scared to go there. They think the virus is there. And you've got 2 people in intensive care beds out of New South Wales' share of 7,000 in Australia. So what we do know are 2 things about this virus, Alan. One, the unemployment is going to be with us a hell of a lot longer than the virus.
Just on that unemployment and business, just have a look at these pictures. These were taken today at about 3:15 at the Opera House. There we are. This is a tragedy. Yep. This is one of the wonders of the world. The Opera House, look at it.
We lifted the lockout laws, but have a look at it.
Look at it.
It's still a desert.
Look at it.
And the centre of the city is hollowed out. There's a bit more activity on the urban fringe. But the second thing we know is that it's complete and utter hysteria about the impact of the virus. And this is a public exaggeration campaign, the like of which I've never seen. I mean, at least in the media, they should be reporting the facts about how many people are in hospital, how many in ICU, and also look at the data that 122 deaths in Australia, just 3 under the age of 60. So the virus has been in Australia for 6 months. So every second month, it kills 1 person under the age of 61. Compare that to other big fatality problems. In Australia already this year, we've had 1,200 male suicides. 1,200 male suicides. So 10% of that number is the total number of COVID-related deaths. A lot of those are people in their 80s and 90s, only 3 under the age of 60. So when you put it in proportion against things like the winter flu or male suicide, the hysteria and the repetition of this in the media is just so far out of proportion.
Frightening. I asked people at the weekend, do they remember swine flu? These were intelligent people, 2009. No. Now, there weren't 11,000 cases, as there are now with coronavirus after 6 months. There were 38,000. There weren't 112 people dead. There were 191 dead, and no one remembers it. There were no lectures, no lockdowns. We got on with our life.
Well, that's right. And you know, Alan, we're engaged in a very dangerous practice here ourselves. We're quoting data. We're quoting statistics, official reports, and you just don't get this in the mainstream media. And I get the feeling among the academics, because these academics flood all over the ABC, so-called health experts, wanting to close down the economy and destroy the economy. You get this in the mainstream media. You get this from some of the politicians. There's an element out there, I'm pretty convinced, there's an element out there who don't like capitalism, and they're saying to themselves, oh, we thought we could destroy capitalism with climate change policy. This virus is even better. This virus is even better. And that is an explanation of the hysteria. These people have got it way out of proportion.
11% of GDP has been spent on this.
Well, you know, that's the other thing that'll outlive the virus is the debt. Yeah. The unemployment and the debt are going to live a lot longer than this virus.
Well, I'll just leave you with one fact. You would remember this. When Kevin Rudd wanted to raise the debt ceiling when he was Prime Minister to $75 billion. That's the limit you could go to for government debt. And he wanted it, well, they went to town, the coalition went to town. The debt now is heading towards $1 trillion.
Yeah, in Rudd's day it was a national crisis.
Yeah.
It's $75 billion. Now it's $1,000 billion. And you'll probably need to double that by the time they stop the spending. So, you know, the easy way to not have to spend welfare, the easy way for businesses to trade is to keep the economy open. But you just feel this stampede pressure, the exaggeration, the hysteria, the panic porn, as the great Paul Murray has called it. You feel that pressure on the politicians, and eventually the damn wall breaks. And, you know, look at one example there, what they did to the border towns, Albury, Wodonga, Echuca, Moama. They've now put them in a special zone. It's been torture for those communities. It all happened 2 weeks ago because of 3 infections in Albury and no cluster emerged. They're down to 0 infections now. So,
but we had infections at Casula in southwestern Sydney, and suddenly the rules that applied to them apply to Tamworth, Dubbo, Burke, everywhere else.
Every pub's a danger zone. So
good to talk to you. Keep at it.